Hi, and welcome to another sneak peek Saturday at the Alameda Free Library. My name is Jenny, and today we are going to read some fiction. The book is called The Book of Longings, and it's been written by Sue Monk Kidd. She has also written The Secret Life of Bees, if that rings a bell for you, maybe. Oh yeah, and here it says The Invention of Wings. She's also written that. So, as always, I'm gonna read you the flap. And just look at this beautiful book cover. I just love it. Alrighty. In her mesmerizing fourth work of fiction, Sue Monk Kidd takes an audacious approach to history and brings her acclaimed narrative gifts to imagine the story of a young woman named Anna. Raised in a wealthy family with ties to the ruler of Galilee, she is rebellious and ambitious, with a brilliant mind and a daring spirit. She engages in fugitive scholarly pursuits and writes narratives about neglected and silenced women. Anna is expected to marry an older widower, a prospect that horrifies her. An encounter with 18-year-old Jesus changes everything. Or Jesus, I don't know. Or Jesus, we don't know that. Their marriage evolves with love and conflict, humor and pathos in Nazareth, where Anna makes a home with Jesus, his brothers, and their mother, Mary. Anna's pent-up longings intensify amid the turbulent resistance to Rome's occupation of Israel. Partially led by her brother, Judas, she is sustained by her fearless aunt Yalta, who harbors a compelling secret. When Anna commits a brazen act that puts her in peril, she flees to Alexandria, where startling revelations and greater dangers unfold. And she finds refuge in unexpected surroundings. Anna determines her fate during a stunning convergence of events considered among the most impactful in human history. Oh, that's quite loaded. All right. And it says, for my daughter, Anne, with all my love. And then we have these little poems here that I'm gonna, gospels I'm gonna read. I am the first and the last. I am she who is honored and she who is mocked. I am the whore and the holy woman. I am the wife and the virgin. I am the mother and the daughter. I am she. Do not be afraid of my power. Do not be afraid of my power. I am the knowledge of my name. I am the name of the sound and the sound of the name. The thunder, perfect mind. And then we have a Gospel of Thomas, which goes like this. Knock upon yourself as on a door, and walk upon yourself as on a straight road. For if you walk on that road, you cannot get lost, and what you open for yourself will open. And then we have this really cool map. And it says here, Palestine and Egypt in the times of Jesus. And it's just a really pretty map they drew here. Okay, so this is Sephora's 16 to 17 CE. I am Anna. I was the wife of Jesus, ben Joseph of Nazareth. I called him beloved, and he, laughing, called me little thunder. He said he heard rumblings inside me while I slept, a sound like thunder from far over the Nahal-Saburi Valley, or even farther beyond the Jordan. I don't doubt he heard something. All my life, longings lived inside me, rising up like nocturnes to wail and sing through the night. That my husband bent his heart to mine on our thin straw mat and listened was the kindness I most loved in him. What he heard was my life begging to be born. My testament begins in the 14th year of my life. The night my aunt led me to the flat roof of my father's grand house in the forest, bearing a plump object wrapped in linen. I followed her up the ladder, eyeing the mysterious bundle, which was tied on her back as if it were a newborn baby, unable to guess what she secreted. She was humming a Hebrew song about Jacob's ladder, doing so rather loudly, and I worried the sound would tumble through the slit windows of the house and awaken my mother. She had forbidden us to go to the roof together, afraid Yalta would fill my head with audacities. Unlike my mother, unlike every woman I knew, my aunt was educated. Her mind was an immense feral country that spilled its borders. She trespassed everywhere. She had come to us from Alexandria 4 months ago for reasons of which no one would speak. I'd not known my father had a sister, and until she appeared one day dressed in a plain undyed tunic, her small body erect with pride, eyes glowering. My father didn't embrace her, nor did my mother. They gave her a servant's room that opened onto the upper courtyard, and they ignored my interrogations. Yalta, too, avoided my questions. Your father made me swear not to speak of my past. He would rather you think I dropped from the sky in the manner of bird shit. Mother said Yalta had an impudent mouth. For once, we were in agreement. My aunt's mouth was a wellspring of thrilling and unpredictable utterances. It was what I most loved about her. Tonight was not the first time we'd sneaked to the roof after dark to escape prying ears. Huddled beneath the stars, my aunt had told me of Jewish girls in Alexandria who wrote on wooden tablets that contained multiple wax slates, contraptions I could scarcely imagine. She'd recounted stories of Jewish women there who led synagogues, studied with philosophers, wrote poetry, and owned houses. Egyptian queens, female pharaohs, great goddesses. If Jacob's ladder reached all the way to heaven, so too did ours. Yalta had lived no more than 4.5 decades, but already her hands were becoming knotted and misshapen. Her skin lay in pleats on her cheeks, and her right eye drooped as if wilted. Despite that, she moved nimbly up the rungs, a graceful climbing spider. I watched as she hoisted herself over the top rung onto the roof, the pouch on her back swinging to and fro. We settled on grass mats facing each other. It was the first day of the month of Tishri, but the cool fall rains had not yet come. The moon sat like a small fire on the hills, the sky cloudless, black, full of embers. The smell of peat and smoke from cook fires drifted over the city. I burned with curiosity to know what she concealed in her bundle, but she gazed into the distance without speaking, and I forced myself to wait. My own audacities lay hidden inside a carved cedar chest in a corner of my room. Scrolled papyri, parchments, and scraps of silk, all of which bore my writings. There were reed pens and sharpening knives, a cypress writing board, vials of ink and ivory palette, and a few precious pigments my father had brought from the palace. The pigments were mostly gone now, but they'd been luminous the day I'd opened the lid for Yalta. My aunt and I had stood there gazing down at all the glory, neither of us speaking. She reached into the chest and pulled out parchments and scrolls. Not long before she arrived, I'd begun writing down the stories of the matriarchs in the scriptures, listening to the rabbis, and would have thought to only figures worth mention in the whole of history were Abraham, Isaac, Jacob and Joseph, David, Saul and Solomon, Moses. When I was finally able to read the scriptures for myself, I discovered, behold, there were women. To be ignored, to be forgotten, this was the worst sadness of all. I swore an oath to set down their accomplishments and praise their flourishings, no matter how small. I would be a chronicler of lost stories. It was exactly the kind of boldness Mother despised. On the day I opened the chest for Yalta, I had completed the stories of Eve, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, Leah, Zilpah, Bilhah, and Esther. But there was so much remaining to be written. Judith, Dinah, Tamar, Miriam, Deborah, Ruth, Hannah, Bathsheba, Jezebel. Tensed, almost breathless, I watched my aunt pore over my efforts. It's as I thought, she said, her face candescent. You've been greatly blessed by God. Such words. Until that moment, I thought I was merely peculiar, a disturbance of nature, a misfit, a curse. I'd long been able to read and write, and I possessed unusual abilities to compose words into stories, to decipher languages and text, to grasp hidden messages, and to hold opposing ideas in my head without conflict. My father, Matthias, who was head scribe and counselor to our tetrarch, Herod Antipas, said my talents were better suited for prophets and messiahs, for men who parted seas, built temples, and conferred with God on mountaintops, or, for that matter, any common circumcised male in Galilee. Only after I thought myself Hebrew and cajoled and pleaded did he allow me to read the Torah. Since the age of 8, I begged him for tutors to educate me, scrolls to study, papyrus to write on, and dyes to mix my own inks. And he'd often complied, whether out of awe or weakness or love. I really couldn't say. My aspirations embarrassed him. When he couldn't subdue them, he made light of them. He liked to say the only boy in the family was a girl. A child as awkward as I required an explanation. My father suggested that while God was busy knitting me together in my mother's womb, he'd become distracted and mistakenly endowed me with gifts destined for some poor baby boy. I don't know if he realized how affronting this must have been to God, at whose feet he laid the blunder. My mother believed the fault lay with Lilith, a demon with the talons of an owl and the wings of carrion bird, who searched for newborn babies to murder, or in my instance, to defile while unnatural tendencies. I'd arrived in the world during a savage winter rain. The old women who delivered the babies refused to venture out, even though my high-ranking father had sent for them. My distraught mother sat on her birthing chair with no one to relieve her pain or protect us from Lilith with the proper prayers and amulets. So it was left to her servant Shipra to bathe me in wine, water, salt, and olive oil, wrap me in swaddling bands, and tuck me into a cradle for Lilith to find. My parents' stories found their way into the flesh of my flesh and the bone of my bone. It had not occurred to me that my abilities had been intended, that God had meant to bestow these blessings on me, on Anna, a girl with turbulent black curls and eyes the color of rain clouds. Voices floated from nearby rooftops. The wail of a child, a goat bleating. Finally, Yalta reached behind her back for the bundle and unwrapped the linen cloth. She peeled away the layers slowly, her eyes alight, casting quick glances at me. She lifted up the contents. A limestone bowl, glowing and round, a perfect full moon. I brought it with me from Alexandria. I wish you do have it. I wish you to have it. When she placed it in my hands, a quiver entered my body. I ran my palms over the smooth surface, the white mouth, the milky words in the stone. Do you know what an incarnation bowl is? She asked. I shook my head. I only knew it must be something of great magnitude, something too perilous, too wondrous to unveil anywhere except on the roof in the dark. In Alexandria, we women pray with them. We write our most secret prayers inside them, like this. She placed a finger inside the bowl and moved it in a spiraling line around the sides. Every day we sing the prayer. As we do, we turn the bowl in slow circles and the words wriggle to life and spin off toward heaven. I gazed at it, unable to speak. A thing so resplendent, so fraught with hidden powers. She said, at the bottom of the bowl, we draw an image of ourselves to make certain God knows to whom the petition belongs. My mouth parted. Surely she knew no devout Jew would look upon figures in human and animal form, much less create them. The second commandment forbade it. Thou shalt not make a graven image of anything living in heaven or on the earth or in the sea. You must write your prayer in the bowl, my aunt told me, but take care what you ask, for you shall surely receive it. I stared into the hollow of the vessel, and for a moment it seemed like a firmament unto itself, the starry dome turned in upside down. When I looked up, Yalta's eyes were settled on me. She said, a man's holy of holies contains God's laws, but inside a woman's there are only longings. Then she tapped the flat bone over my heart and spoke to Then she tapped the flat bone over my heart and spoke the charge that caused something to flame up in my chest. Write what's inside here, inside your holy of holies. And this is where I'm gonna stop for today. You can find this in our news section. I would recommend placing a hold on it if you intend to come to the library and pick it up. It is called, again, The Book of Longings, and it is written by Sue Monk Kidd. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, and I see you again next Saturday. Bye.